All right, recording has begun. I will share my screen. Oh, I did not. Man, I am so bad at this. Because I didn't even turn on my. How do I turn on my? I'm gonna stop sharing. It's fine. No, cancel that. Camera. There we go. All right, Mr. Peanut Gallery. That was
It
on
literally
that.
says in the Discord, the stream has ended. Cricket noise.
The stream did not end. Okay. I was just trying to. There we go. All right. And voila. Like, should I be doing a thing where like, I wonder if I should. No. Oh no. Now everybody knows what. Now everybody knows what thing I use. All right. So you guys can see chapter 8. Yes. No. Okay. Whatever. It's fine. Let's just go. All right.
I think you have to like click a tab over or something. Or no, I just see what you have pulled up. I think.
But okay. Hold on. I can do this.
You must end it again. Don't make me cricket noise you.
How's that?
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Because I was like, I have this webcam, but like you can only see me for the first 2 seconds before I switch over to showing you everything. So yeah. So let's just get into it. Genesis 8, the flood subsides. So this is the second half of the Noah story. But God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the livestock that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind blow over the earth, and the waters subsided. The fountains of the deep and the windows of heavens were closed. The rain from the heavens was restrained, and the waters receded from the earth continually. At the end of 150 days, the waters had abated. And in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountain of Ararat. And the waters continued to abate until the 10th month. And the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. At the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had made and sent forth a raven. It went to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. Then he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters had subsided from the face of the ground. But the dove found no place to set her foot, and she returned to him and to the ark, for the waters were still on the face of the whole earth. And so he put out his hand and took her and brought her into the ark with him. He waited another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came back to him in the evening, and behold, in her mouth was a freshly plucked olive leaf. So Noah knew that the waters had subsided from the earth. Then he waited another 7 days and sent forth the dove. She did not return to him anymore. In the 601st year, and the 1st month, the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried from the earth. And Noah removed the covering from the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. In the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth had dried out. Then God said to Noah, "Go out from the ark, you and your wife, and your sons wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you, of all flesh, birds and animals, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth." So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that moves on the earth, went out by families from the ark. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings to the altar. When the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, smelled the pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done. All the earth remains, while the earth remains, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Okay, so we have a lot that I want to try and get through here. But the first thing that I'm going to harp on is this, and God remembered Noah. So again, like we have spoke about in the previous weeks, anytime that an anthropomorphism in relationship to God is being used, I think it's appropriate to try and see how can we like cash that in terms that we with God's other properties, and that we don't just assume that the way in which he remembered is like a particular kind of way in which human beings remembered. Because a lot of times when we see this, we go, oh, well, did God forget about Noah? And I think pretty obviously we want to say that God did not forget about Noah, because that would imply like a lack of knowledge, right? And that seems like it is uh, uh, a lessening of God's omniscience, right? And so how should we think about this? And I think it's up for debate about how exactly you can understand this remembered, but to me, I think it does kind of it seems to have something to do with attention, and it's one of the things that's interesting, because this idea of God remembering, it's a thing that's going to get used actually throughout the Bible, and in most places actually it's kind of like a prayer, right? And it's like God remember me, right? And so we have this about Jesus, right? Like remember me whenever you come into your kingdom, right? And this kind of thing. Uh, but you'll have this in other places where like God remembered, right? So you can actually, I didn't do this. Let's click randomly on some other examples. Oh no. But I will remember my covenant. Let's just jump around. Most is about other people remember. I'm trying. Yeah. Anyways, to me, I think that it is kind of related to this a directing of God's attention, which is something that I think in kind of a classical theology, which maybe people don't understand what I mean by that. Like there's a term of philosophy that's called like classical theism, and it's usually people that uh, attribute the traditional omni-power, so omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence, to God, and then try to formally defend those in a philosophical sense. But something that never really gets discussed in those, it is this idea of, does God have like perfect attention to everything that's going on? I think the answer is yes. Even though I do think that you could make an argument that there is some kind of bringing about of attention, especially in regards to something like prayer, right? That prayer does, like, does it do, and so this is kind of a weird tangent, but some of the things that like made me think about this more is actually Brandon Sanderson's books. In Brandon Sanderson's books, he has creatures that, well, he has people, and actually creatures too, because sometimes they're not people, um, that get like godlike powers. And kind of the way that he handles that is that he has them like, they know infinitely like many things or whatever, and they like can look at anywhere like on their planet, but they can't focus their attention on everything. And so he uses that in like his stories as basically a way that the characters that are on the planets can kind of trick the gods, basically by getting the god, one character will get the god's attention while the other character goes and like does something else. I don't think that that is a thing that we can do with the God of the Bible. Um, but I, but there does seem to be some kind of um thing related to prayer, um with attention, but I think that's in tension with other things that we know about God. And I think there are passages where I'm thinking of like, uh is it Elijah with the prophets of Baal, right? Where the Bible kind of does the opposite of what that kind of a worldview might entail, which is that, oh, we need to work ourselves up in order to get God's attention. Um, and like, there are passages in the Bible that basically kind of point you in the other direction and say like, no, you don't need to do that. And so I, I just put that out there to say that I think that that is an interesting um, dynamic, and is like a thing and a thought process that I'm still working through how I think about that, and in a lot of ways. Um, so a couple of other, so we'll just keep going through it. Um, I wanted to highlight, uh, well, I guess before I go on, because that was kind of the only thing that I had with that. Did either of you wanted to say anything about what you think about with God remembering stuff? I'll try to do better about including you guys on things.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say on this, because you mentioned it as instances where it says God remembers as then meaning that that's an instance where God is directing attention, and I do think in a sense that that is correct. But I would probably articulate it like this, to say that when it says that God remembers, it's when he is doing an action or setting a series of actions or events in motion, which is relevant to a prior covenant or obligation.
Yeah.
And in that same way, we can think of it as remembering whenever like we're given a task to do, like a chore. And then whenever we relay to whoever it is who assigned us that chore, that we did the chore. We say, I remembered the chore. I remembered to do the chore. And it doesn't mean that you forgot at any point
No.
to do it.
Right.
It just
Exactly.
means at the instance that you did it is when you remembered.
Yes.
And I think that's what's going on here.
And it's like remember, and so remembering is the thing that connects you to the past, right? And like that's why like remembering is related to like, so like whenever we get to the other patriarchs, he's gonna do things like he's gonna have them set up memorials, right? And all this stuff. And like and it'll say like, why am I setting up this memorial? And it's like, you're setting up that memorial so that whenever your children look at it and go, hey dad, why is this memorial here? You go, we set up this memorial because God did this, this, and this, like in the past, right? And it's a way of joining the identity of the past to like the current thing, right? Like the present, right? And so it's exactly what you said. For God, whenever God remembers, right? It's that he put a stake in the ground at some other point in time, and then he's bridging that to this other one in like the covenant, right? In the covenant connections, right? Which is what we're supposed to do in things like communion, right? So like the whole point of communion is you're remembering what Jesus did, right? And so and as you do that, you also remember like all of the people that took communion, like all of the times that you took communion prior, but also all of the people that took communion prior. And so like it is the thing, it becomes the thing that connects you, like it connects you to the rest of the people that take communion, which connects to the head, which is Christ. And so in that way, by taking communion and remembering, you become the body of Christ, right? And so you take the body of Christ to become the body of Christ, right? And so like it has all of that. Yeah, sorry.
So are you you believe in transubstantiation then?
No, I do not.
I'm just messing with you.
I have a, yeah. I actually thought about it recently, that I was like I should ask, because Brooke and I have talked a lot about like communion and like my thoughts on it, and I'm very much a a symbolic understanding of communion, which actually we'll get into a little bit into this, but like
You're a memorialist?
yeah, like I'm a pretty hard like symbolic memorialist, but also that um but I also don't like it whenever people say that it's just a symbol or it's just a memorial, because the thing is that like
You think it's efficacious?
well, I think that symbols are real things that happen in the world. Like I think that people wouldn't use symbols unless they're real, right? Like this is a symbol. It's also real, right? like if I were to take off my ring and throw it in the trash, it's a symbol, but that would mean something very real. And
Yeah, try to tell your wife, hey, it's just a symbol, baby.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
And like
true.
and this is where I'm like if you don't believe that, it's like go try to get married and don't give each other rings.
Right.
Like maybe you two, like maybe the two people getting married won't freak out about the fact that they didn't exchange rings. But then go ask like their family members. See how they feel about it. Like they're not going to be cool with it, right? And it's because symbols are real things. So yeah. Okay. So God made a wind blow over the earth. Okay. When you read this, you should be thinking of spirit hovering above the face of the waters. You should be thinking of a wind blowing over the waters of the Red Sea, because the Red Sea does the same thing. The wind that blows over the waters of the Red Sea is the thing that splits the Red Sea and makes dry land, right? You should be thinking of Jesus above the waters in the Gospels, right? Like those ideas all connected. Okay. I didn't have much more for that section. Yeah, we're already at 8:24. So let's kind of get into the. So actually, this will be a good transition from the thing that we just talked to. So, the raven and the dove. So I've referenced a bunch. Inspiring Philosophy. Inspiring Philosophy has a playlist about the chapters of Genesis. I think it's very good. I'd recommend that you go watch it whenever you have time. I thought he had another video where he specifically is comparing the Noah flood account to the Gilgamesh flood account. But I couldn't find it. And I was very busy this week and didn't have time to fully flesh that research out. But like a lot of things in the Bible, there will be people will claim that there was like just straight copying going on, right? And so a lot of times what people will say is that like the Noah account is copying parts of, or is copying the Gilgamesh epic. Which actually, I could just put my money in the mouth, put my money where my mouth is, and just look and see if can I Google this? Gilgamesh flood account. Let's see, account date that has birds. So yeah, so this is the Gilgamesh flood account featuring the release of the birds is found in tablet 9 of the Alchem of Gilgamesh, while the most complete version of this tablet dates to Neo-Assyrian period, around 750 to 600 BC is much after the writing of the Pentateuch, which this is good enough. Take this with a grain of salt because this is an AI Google like search for research that I've done in 5 minutes. But basically, the argument that I'm trying to make, that if I had done enough time, I could have verified this a little bit better. But I'm pretty sure that the earliest versions of the Gilgamesh flood account that we have don't actually include the releasing of the birds. It's later accounts that include the releasing of the birds with the story. But the later accounts that include the releasing of the birds are written after the Pentateuch was written. So actually, you could make an argument that rather than the Bible copying the Epic of Gilgamesh, probably what's going on is that later copies of the people that are writing later copies of the Epic of Gilgamesh might actually be copying the Bible. And really, this wouldn't be a crazy idea because in my opinion, there are actually other examples of this. Most notably, the most famous one that always kind of gets in my head is the whole is all the stuff dealing with Saturnalia. And so people are always like, oh, Saturnalia was this pagan holiday that was on December 25th, and the Christians came in and overrode it. Well, the problem with that is that basically no one celebrated Saturnalia until after Christianity was a thing. Like, Christianity was already established, was already growing in the empire, was already becoming more popular, and people were already celebrating Christmas on December 25th. And so it's actually more likely that this pagan group that was gaining rise at around the same time that Christianity was gaining in popularity, they probably were actually the ones that put their holiday on like roughly the same day as a competing thing against Christians, right? You could probably actually make that argument the other way instead. And I think that you could actually do the same thing with the flood accounts of Noah. Now, let's talk about specifically what they mean and how you can understand them. A different video that Inspiring Philosophy has regarding Genesis chapter 8, he talks about the raven and the dove. And he it's actually funny if you go and like watch his video. He goes, a lot of people will try and figure out if there is a symbolic understanding of the raven and the dove and the order that they're released and all this. And his argument is that no, he doesn't think that there's a symbolic understanding, that actually this was just an ancient seafaring technique that people used where they used birds to find land. And then he quotes a bunch of sources, and they basically make the argument that the raven is a carrion feeding bird. And so because of that, if there's a bunch of dead things in the water, the raven can feed off of those things, can land, feed off of, basically like land like on like the body of whatever the thing is, eat it a little bit, and like keep flying. And so because of that, you release the raven first in order to give you an overall trajectory of where the land is going to be. But then you release the dove second, because the dove needs to feed from the vegetation that would only be revealed as the waters. So right, we have a like, before the birds are like, I remember whenever like I learned this story as a kid, that it was like, oh, they were out searching for land, but also land, because if the tops of the mountains are seen, some land is visible, right? But the issue is that they need land that has vegetation growing on it in order to actually live and sustain themselves, right? And that's what the dove is supposed to be doing. And so he gives this rationale, and that's the rationale for why this is in the story. To me, that's fine, and this goes back to what I was trying to say earlier, is that that doesn't contradict a symbolic understanding of what is going on here with the raven and the dove. And so in our language of creation books, I don't know if you ever found yours, Christian, but if you go to page 207,
I did. I have it.
oh, sorry, not 207, 270. That is the part where he talks about the raven, and I'll just read this out. Well, so actually, I'll say what I was going to say. So I grabbed this like 5 minutes before we started recording. And what I was going to say is that the raven and the dove are what often gets referred to by Jonathan Peugeot and Matthew, I think in this, right? Evan, correct me if I'm wrong. Does he talk about like left hand, right hand? He talks about left hand, right hand symbolism in this, right?
Just a few chapters before the Raven one is left and right symbolism.
Okay. And really, like what this is left hand, right hand symbolism, and left hand, right hand symbolism is so left hand is exploratory. Left hand, in general, goes out. Right hand comes in, right? And part of the idea, and so like a lot of times we have an idea that like left hand is bad, right? So like sinister, the word sinister means left-handed, right? And like the left hand's usually associated with darkness, right? Right, there's verses about like you don't let your right hand see what your left hand is doing, and or don't let, and like or maybe it's the reverse or whatever, and like all of this stuff. And like the right hand is like the one that like holds your sword and like all that stuff, like the right hand is dominant. But even in so this even goes down to like a biological level. So like you're if you look at like Ian McGilchrist will talk about this. So like if you're in a dark room and you're not thinking about it, most people will instinctively reach out with their left hand and they'll explore with their left hand. Things that you memorize, that you do with order, that you really know well, you do with your right hand. Again, most people, right? So you write with your left hand. You write with your left hand. You play sports or whatever and stuff with your right hand. And so a lot of times people will have the right hand and the left hand will be competing against each other. But one of the things that happens that if you have a proper balance and a proper order, the right hand and the left hand will work together. And so like in Eastern Orthodoxy, like iconography, they'll display this as like on the right or on the left hand will be like John the Baptist and Paul, because like John the Baptist is going out to the wilderness. Paul is the apostle to the Gentiles, right? He goes out. And then on the right hand will be Peter, right? Because Peter is like the apostle to the Jews. He's the one that's close. And then like Mary, because Mary is like the one that's like close, right? And so so basically you and so you have this right hand left hand duality, dual nature, but it's working together for a singular purpose. And what I would say is that the raven and the dove are representative of this left hand and right hand duality that is working together. And in some ways, so there are a couple of different ways in which right, the raven is so now that I have that set up, let me read what's in here, and then I'm going to add an additional component to where the raven is kind of on the darkness side, right? In the following passage, Noah sends 2 birds to act as his eyes after the flood. They are both tasked with going back and forth until they return with signs of dry land. This is yet another variant of the basic pattern of knowledge discussed throughout this section. The raven never returns with a positive answer, but the dove returns with a sign of dry land, a leaf of the tree. The raven, completeness, indirect knowledge. The dove, righteousness, direct knowledge. These two birds are connected with divination and prophecy. On the one hand, the raven is connected to death and cyclical time because it is a dark bird that feeds on the carcasses of animals. Moreover, the raven is not a kosher bird, so it is unsuitable for food and therefore represents strange flesh. On the other hand, the dove is a kosher bird, which means it is familiar flesh. This implies a capacity to host the breath of humanity. In addition, the doves were anciently trained to carry written messages for humans, which makes them analogous to angels as vehicles of language and meaning. On the whole, the concept of grace is key to the story of the flood. It can be found in the attributes of Noah and the combined efforts of the raven and the dove. Like the Sabbath, grace symbolizes a covenant between heaven and earth, as well as the perfect balance of time and space. Now, one thing that I want to correct on him a little bit is that it went to and fro on the waters is said of the raven, right? And this is my extra little bit. Who else goes to and fro on the earth? Anybody know? You can.
Satan.
Yes.
Satan.
Yes. Ha-Satan. Right?
Yeah.
Where is he? It's somewhere in Genesis or in Job 1. Right? From roaming the earth, going back and forth on it. Right? And so, right, that they're so like, oh, I would, right, on one hand you could be like, oh, I'm wrong to make that connection between like the raven and Satan, except for the fact that Ha-Satan in that story is actually doing a similar thing that that the raven is here, right? The raven, right, is not direct, is feasting upon the dead, right? Like, I think plenty of people would be fine with plenty of ancient Hebrews would be fine to say that Satan feasts upon the dead, right? I mean, I don't know. Let's look up Satan and Dante Satan. What's he doing right there? Oh, he's feasting upon the dead. Like, oh, right? But also, this should help us to have, I would argue that this should actually help us to have a better understanding of Satan, in the sense that Satan and the left, right? And so this is where, so now you can go, I actually think that Jonathan Peugeot has a video called like the left hand of God or whatever. And basically in it's he's trying to make the argument that demons are actually like a tool of God to draw people back to God, right? And like that the purpose of them, like, and which is honestly is about the same kind of sort of idea that you hear from any kind of Pentecostal person whenever someone will say something along the lines of like, oh, that person needs to hit rock bottom in order to like become a Christian, right? Like that's like the same kind of idea. It's like that person needs to like experience the depths of despair in order to recognize that like they need a savior so that they can come back. And so in that way, them hitting rock bottom or them being attacked by demons is actually a thing that is helping them ultimately get back to God. And I would argue that that's what the Raven is doing here, right? Right, like, right, the Raven, even if you like, if you're thinking of it in like the inspiring philosophy terms of like, oh, the Raven is a tool that gives you a general direction of where you need to go, then yeah, like like it can be a practical thing, but it can also be a symbolic thing at the same time, because symbolic things and practical things like go together. Okay. Did I
I wanna add
Go for
quickly
it,
just
yeah.
that your description of that you gave of saying like, okay, like the nautical trick of using a raven and a dove lines up so that, okay, you make you get like a general sense of direction based off of like inferences from a raven leaving and not returning.
Yes.
But then you get a more concrete
Answer from the
answer
dove. Yes.
from the dove by it returning and holding like evidence. Again, that further strengthens the argument that Pajot's making in
Yeah.
the book of saying that like the Raven is affiliated with a form of divination, where divination is essentially, as he just describes it, like a form of like second order problem solving, almost similar to like, I don't know, metadata or inferences based on small like peripheral stuff, which is why he references it to strange flesh, meaning like stuff that wouldn't be typically integrated. So like weirdness is what he's getting at, like remainder aspects, being used to make inferences towards things whenever concrete knowledge is not available. And then he makes the differentiation between the dove being concrete knowledge, which is direct knowledge, which is separate from divination. It's just the answer given to you. Like, and so those descriptions of the nautical trick actually align even better, like when given full voice to the symbolism. So yeah, I would fully agree. You can't argue that like because it's a nautical trick that it's not symbolism. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And it like, it only works if you have this kind of if you have the kind of standard understanding of symbolism of like, which unfortunately is just how the modern world deals and treats symbolism. That symbolism is just crap you make up. Like that's basically the way that like every high school literature class deals with symbolism. Symbolism is just nonsense, arbitrary nonsense
Yeah.
that you make up and be like, oh, does that kind of sort of fit? Like, yeah, sure, okay, like roll with it. That's what it is.
Can I ask something on that?
Yeah.
Can either one of you unpack the divination aspect a little more? Because I can't say that I totally tracked with it. I think I kind of get it, but I'm not really totally tracking with it. So I want to make sure that I
So
understand that.
I think so. I think the basic argument. So like, there are divination practices that people perform throughout, both the Old and the New Testament, actually.
Yes.
And so basically, like, so right, so like in the New Testament, right, they cast lots to figure out who is going to be I believe it's to figure out who's going to replace Judas, right?
Yeah.
Right, and basically the argument, I think this is the thing, is that right, it's, you do something that is seemingly random right? It's in like the chaotic sphere, right? That's what I think everyone was talking about like second order like effects, right? Where like you don't have direct control of it, and by you not having direct control of it, it's an attempt to give the control of the situation over to God, right? That's basically what's going on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so by the fact that you don't have direct control over it, you're using it to try and get exact knowledge from God. Whereas prophecy is like revelation from God. But it's not necessarily exact. It's like it's more vague, right? And so there might be more like darkness surrounding that there might be more darkness surrounding that that information. So like I'm trying to bring up the picture. Right. So can you see this on the thing? Right. So he has. Does that? I don't think that comes through. Okay, it doesn't come through. But anyways, he's got here the raven and its completeness, and so it's complete, right? It's related to a circle, but which completeness is like related to God, but it's indirect. It's murky, right? And so because of that, like prophecy might be complete in the sense that like it's like perfect, it's coming from God, but it's murky, and so we have trouble understanding it and understanding like what's going on. Whereas whenever something's more ordered, right, we have it's more direct. But when it's more direct, I would argue that it can actually cause more problems. Because if you get that divination wrong for whatever reason, and there can be multiple reasons why you get that divination wrong, it's going to direct you actually in the wrong path, right? It's going to like you're going to get a hard path, but that hard path is going to be wrong, which is what I would argue is actually why I think the Bible goes out of its way to kind of argue against. I feel like I've never actually. I don't know. I was about to say something, but I'm like, actually, I don't know if that's true. I was like, I feel like the Bible warns against divination more than it warns against like false prophecy. But I'm like, I actually, I could be wrong on that. I don't know. You'd have to do like a full like comparative study of like, okay, how much does it like say like, hey, don't be doing divination stuff, and how much is it saying, hey, be careful about like prophecy, because it has both of those. Like we have stuff about like, hey, be careful about false prophecy, and we have stuff that's like, hey, don't be doing these certain like divination practices. So. But that's what I've always used it like. My advice.
Here's what I'm trying to understand, like how this relates to, the raven and the dove, left hand, the right hand. I'm trying to correlate it with that. Is that
it would be it would be divination. So I think I'm understanding. It would be divination kind of goes with the dove, and it would be prophecy goes with the raven.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying.
Yeah.
I was trying to make that connection.
I think that's the way that it gets connected.
Because you're saying prophecy is like sometimes God intentionally, like it's perfect, like you're saying, but
chapter 63.
it's
chapter 63.
But sometimes it's obscure, and he does it intentionally. Whereas divination, you're saying is like they're
No,
looking for they're looking for precision.
that's the way that I took it, but he might have it opposite.
Well,
That's the way
Jonathan
that I took it.
Pedro he's infallible, so
Well,
We
also
know
this isn't this is his brother's book, but also like I haven't read the second half of this. You can actually see where my bookmark is. I haven't read this second half.
okay.
Yeah. So I was guessing as to that part because I was like, yeah, that's how I think about it.
Well, I think the left hand right thing is really interesting. So I'm not trying to
But yeah,
derail your
but
entire
yeah,
presentation here.
I wasn't trying to get fixated on the divination prophecy stuff. I was fixated on the left hand, right hand stuff.
I was just trying to wrap my head around like.
And you got where I was connecting that to, right? The left is the raven, and the right is.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
I think
that
that's
one.
really
Okay.
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, that's also related to like it's related to the I believe it's the cherubim. Whenever it's describing the four faces of the cherubim, there's a left hand right hand relationship with that as well, and I believe it's I believe it's the ox is on the. I think the ox is on the right, and I think the lion is on the left. I think that's how
Okay.
that goes.
By the way, it's kind of ironic that as soon as I asked for clarification, Evan like just hangs up. He's like,
yeah, he left.
he's out of here. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
not answering
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
the timing was literally perfect.
He's like, I'm out.
refuses to
that.
elaborate.
Please.
Yeah. Okay, I have a couple more things that I wanted to say. Yeah, okay, so a couple so in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried off the face of the earth. Okay, the argument that I want to make here is that this is a mini age to come. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. Where's the verse in Revelation 21? Where is it? Control F, C. And then I saw a new heaven and new earth, for the first heaven and first earth had passed away, right? Had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. So, this, I've talked a bunch about how this is like kind of a redo of the creation narrative, and it is that. I'm gonna give a little bit more than I might normally on some things to the kind of dispensationalist aspect, where they say that like after the flood is kind of a new dispensation. I do think that it is kind of a different age. That there's similarities between what happens prior to the flood and after the flood. And it's related to this the fact that at the new year there's a new age, and the face of the ground was dry, right? That the chaos of the old world was gone, and that notion is the same symbolic notion as, and there was no longer any sea. So whenever the new heavens and the new earth come, and we are in the age to come, that's what heaven is, right? Right, like pretty much anywhere in the New Testament where it talks about like going to heaven, what it actually says is in the age to come, right? So that's that's what's happening here. Blah, 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 blah. So there's this new creation. We have this instance of the altar. This is the thing that inspiring philosophy talked about, which I think is obviously correct. When Noah smelled the pleasing aroma, and the word there is nikrak, which is supposed to like, or I don't know how to say that, but whatever. That soothing is supposed to be kind of like a play on the on Noah's name, like Noach, like Nikrak, like it's got the same like ending. um like that connection between the name and the resulting thing. And so we have the kind of the end of the curse. I think you can debate whether or not this is a like no more progression, or did he actually kind of reverse the curse to some degree. I think if you're really taking the whole biblical account into, you want to say that like the whole curse isn't completely eliminated. Like the thorns are still an issue, which is why the thorns are going to show up again later on Jesus's crown, right? But you definitely have the idea that there's something different going on. And I would actually argue that in a similar thing that I talked about last week, whenever I talked about like why is there all of this very strict detail about the numbers of the days in the month and all that stuff. And I try to make the argument that there's something going on with kind of the like initiation of time, and I think that's what this last verse here, while the earth remains, seed time and harvest and cold and heat and summer and winter and day and night will not cease, right? Like these are overarching things related to time, I think. And I also want to point out that it's while the earth remains, all of these things will not cease. But as we see in Revelation, the first heaven, the first earth had passed away, right? And so even in this portion where God's promising that there's going to be order after this period of chaos, there's this caveat of that it's based off of the earth remaining. And so it brings up the question of, is there a possibility where the earth doesn't remain? That is all I had for tonight. Questions, comments?
What was that last thing you said? Is there a possibility that the earth will remain? Is that what you said?
I said that that this caveat being here of while the earth remains brings up the question of, is there a possibility that the earth will not remain? And I'm saying that from like the perspective of someone that's reading this for the first time, right? And obviously the answer is yes, the earth will not remain. Like, but I was trying to say that from a different person's perspective. Yeah.
Well, actually, I have some thoughts there.
Okay.
So, a lot of the patristics in like the first, I don't know, number of centuries. I don't have it down to a science, but a lot of them viewed like when it talks about Revelation, like heaven and earth passing away and the new heaven, new earth being formed. They viewed a lot of that in, not saying they're right, but a lot of them viewed it in a similar fashion to like the resurrection of our bodies. How that it's like
Yeah.
how that our bodies, it's kind of like we're fundamentally the same person, but we're fundamentally new.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a both and. It's like
Yeah.
it's the same thing, but it's a completely new thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't like go against that idea.
Yeah, so it's like, but it's kind of interesting though, because it's like, and I don't know the degree of importance on it. But it does kind of speak to the way that God operates, even from the very beginning in Genesis, where he doesn't, interestingly, we don't start with nothing. We actually start with raw material.
Yeah.
And then he says, hey, I'm going to do a new thing, creates the earth. And then you get to the flood. And it's kind of, you'd probably agree with this, it's kind of like symbolically, at least, in the very least, it's like a new creation event.
Yeah.
And so the one thing that I find interesting, maybe you have some thoughts on this, is like, so all the way leading up, from the creation story all the way to Christ, we're getting all these destruction events, these baptismal events, leading up to Christ. And then Christ obviously institutes baptism.
Mhm.
But Peter, interestingly, says this earth, however you want to view it, either destroyed, purified, renewed, eradicated, whatever view you want to take, he says it's going to be destroyed with fire. So I've been thinking about that, like, why did we go from water to fire? Was the water stage over and now there's a fire stage? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Which
mean,
is,
I don't know how common this is, but that was definitely the understanding that I always grew up with, was that people like, especially whenever like you learned the Noah's flood story, people always brought up this idea of like God will never destroy um the world with water, but he will destroy it with fire, like in the future. And to me, like, I've always kind of couched that in like, how do I want to say this? Like, one of the things that I think, like, right, that I think you and I have talked about this some, Christian, is that people, especially whenever they come to like stuff in Revelation, they try to be systematic about like the steps and the order and like what exactly is happening and all of this stuff. And I take an approach that like a lot of that stuff is a lot more jumbled and messy than what we would want it to be. And so I don't know where in, the tribulation time frame, the qualification of being destroyed in fire is going to happen. But to me, um it's too similar to the idea that people have, right, because like every symbol, okay, so every like symbol basically there's like a positive and like negative aspect to it, and so you have that with water, but like uh, with rest versus chaos, and you have that with fire, right? And so with fire you have like destruction versus like refinement, right? And this is where like you have this kind of idea. I mean, this is like the modern Jewish idea of what the afterlife is that like, oh, actually the afterlife is the same for everybody. It's just that like if you're on God's team, like being near him is great, but if you're not on God's team, being near him is like being on fire, right? And so like I kind of just always relate that to like the second coming and just being like, okay, like when the second coming happens, like some of us are gonna really like it, and other of us are not gonna like it, not gonna like it at all. Um, and so that's sort of how I think about the like the world being destroyed in fire kind of a thing. Like I don't think it's a prophecy about nukes. Um, I don't. Maybe it could be,
That's not how I
but
take it either. Yeah,
but
no, I think it's, I tend to think it's like a divine, there's a divine act occurring, of some sort. And
yeah,
maybe God uses natural mechanisms. He might
yeah.
use,
Well, and like so I mean, like, is it a fire and brimstone thing that it's like a repeat of Sodom and Gomorrah? Um,
yeah, I don't know.
and like, but all over the place. I don't know. Well, and then if it is, it becomes a similar thing, right? Because it okay, let's say God destroys the whole planet with fire and brimstone. Well, then is he going to do the resurrection and bring all of the saints back? Okay, well then it's a good thing for for all of those people. So like it kind of becomes the same thing like what I was trying to say. Um
Yeah, I was just
yeah.
trying, I wasn't sure, like, if maybe you had some
I mean,
insights. Not that you have to, it's just
no.
something I've been thinking about. It's like God's very intentional about his symbolism and in um the types. Well, this wouldn't really be necessarily a type, it's more just a symbol. But he's very intentional about it. And so,
Yeah,
water's, I got water pinned down. Like, I'm pinning it down more by the day. But fire, I'm like, okay, I understand, like you're saying, destruction or um yeah, like destruction versus a purification process,
yeah,
whether you're gold or your hay
yeah,
is going to dictate how you handle the fire.
yeah.
um but I don't know, I'm just thinking about that, and I don't really, I mean, we have, like, if I was a preterist, which I'm not, I mean, maybe I might not be totally opposed to like all partial preterism, but
Everyone is a partial preterist.
yeah, like
They're
you might be a
they're
partial preterist, but I think full blown preterism is actually like really far off
yeah,
personally.
yeah.
But
Same. I'm with you.
that being said, if I were a full blown preterist, I would say, well, that fire took place in AD 70.
Yeah. Ooh,
The
obviously.
the old covenant, the temple went up in flames. He destroyed the old earth and ushered in the new earth,
Yeah.
new covenant. That's how they would handle that. I
Yeah,
don't think it's legitimate. I think the event is way more cosmic, what we're looking forward to eventually.
I think
Yeah.
so. I'd say a couple things. So like one is whenever you're trying to like figure out like how the Bible deals with like a symbol, the easiest and best way to do it is to like look at a bunch of examples of that thing showing up in the Bible. Like, and
Yeah, that's true.
and see like how it deals with it, and see what like if there's a common through line. And then the second thing to do is to just take a really, really long time to think about it. And so I will say that I actually had kind of a similar thing, but thinking about the symbolic nature of fire, like I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 months ago, and but that was mostly like, and the thing that I came to was like thinking a lot about the burning bush and the furnace with Nebuchadnezzar, and like, and Sodom and Gomorrah with like and to me, I really think that like the symbolic nature of fire has something to do with the presence of God. Like
Okay.
the burning bush, like there's a big argument to be made that the burning bush, like I might need to say this and then not explain and dip out, but like the burning bush kind of like is Jesus.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I think it like there's even like a part like with the burning bush where it says like it looks like the angel of the Lord or something like that. And there's a whole thing about how like the angel of the Lord like kind of like it is or might be like a pre-incarnate Jesus. And then you have the same thing with like the fiery furnace, right? You have the fourth man in the fire, which oddly enough is one of the things that Michael Heiser, that's one of the instances where Michael Heiser does not think that that an angel is Jesus. He actually says in his book, yeah, Michael Heiser actually says that the
That's
fourth
weird
man
because like the whole book is about like Daniel's all about the Son of Man.
yeah, and like everywhere like else that an angel appears, Heiser is like that's secretly Jesus. But like in like the fourth man one, he's like, nope, not that's just a regular angel. And I'm like, dude, what?
That is weird.
And
That's
his
weird.
main argument is because the person that says it looks like a son of man or like an angelic being is Nebuchadnezzar. And so because that statement is said by a pagan, he's like, oh, we can't like
That's his
we can't.
reason.
Yeah, that's like his reasoning.
And that's
I'd have to
it's
find
so
it.
weird how you
It's
have
such a it's such a weird,
weird.
like sometimes people just like have this where it's like you feel like they're like firing on all cylinders on like all this other stuff, and then they get to this one point and you're just like, what? Like why were you thinking this?
Yes.
And that's what I have with like
That's
Heiser. I'm
very
like
true, yeah.
I'm like there's so many things where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm right with you. But then you get to this one thing and I'm just like, why do you think that?
There's no
Like,
that's not good rationale.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's weird.
It's like you just like lost the plot at that point.
Mhm.
But then
That's
so
funky.
then the third one for the so for the Sodom and Gomorrah scene, the thing that you have to remember with Sodom and Gomorrah is you have so like here's the city, here's the outside of the city where Abraham is talking to the angel of the Lord, and it is described as Yahweh, and there's Yahweh
Yep.
up here. And what does the Yahweh up here in the clouds do? The Yahweh up here is the one that sends the fire down, right? What is this a very similar
Yeah.
picture to? when Jesus shows up, we have Jesus down here, and we have the Father up here, and
Yep.
he sends the Holy Spirit down, right? And then we also have times where the Holy Spirit comes down like tongues on fire, right? And so tongues of fire is also a thing that is used for in Old Testament, well, not Old Testament, but in like old stories, is used to describe like fireballs. And so it's like a giant fireball coming from heaven is kind of like the spirit of God. And so I'm like to me, I'm like, there's like a connection there between like with like the presence of God and fire. And so that's like, I know I could be debated on that, but like I'm like
No, that's
and-
cool. Yeah.
and so that's the thing where I'm like I've thought about those, but I don't like it's not solid. Yeah, in my mind.
No, I get that. That makes sense. I mean, it's like it seems to be more of a
Oh,
cosmic
hey,
event
I'm
at the
gonna-
end, but
I'm gonna
I
end my
have-
recording real quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.